In this video, I'm going to give you a live walkthrough of the 9-source AI-powered research process that we use behind $1.5 million a month in profitable ad spend for our clients. And this is exactly the process that we use to help brands that, in their own words, have already tried absolutely everything, helping them to find and unlock net new winning angles and audiences and personas so that they can increase their daily ad spend. So first of all, the reason why this is so important is because every single brand that's spending a good amount of money on Meta this year is hitting the exact same wall. The hit rate is collapsing out of nowhere. What's happening is they had ads printing in the previous quarter, but then all of a sudden just completely die out for no good reason, really. Then there's only one or two winners carrying the entire ad account. And then, of course, as soon as that winner fatigues, your acquisition costs climb dramatically, and there's no good reason. You have no idea why that's happening. Now, what's actually changed since 2025 when Andromeda was introduced is that the algorithm that they use has fragmented your audience into hundreds of what we call subsegments. So these are different personas, awareness levels, and formats. And ultimately, only one angle that you launch ever reaches one of these individual pockets or subsegments. And then as soon as that pocket is drained, the ad dies, and it doesn't matter how good or in-depth your media buying process is, you will not be able to bring it back. Media buying itself as a skill is redundant, and the creative diversity aspect is the most important thing. You need new pockets, you need new angles, new personas, and new formats. But of course, it's impossible to be able to do this just with volume. If you have 100 ads, you have one angle. In the new age of Andromeda, you are just really testing one ad. So with AI, yes, of course, we've basically solved production. Everyone can use Gen AI tools to produce videos and statics, but the bottleneck now is no longer the production itself. It's knowing what to produce, and that specifically is a research problem. So in this video, I'm going to be talking you through this document, the 9-step research process that we run when working with a new client, and I'm going to be doing a live demo of the research itself. Now, first things first, just to make this clear, as I am doing this and when you run this yourself, if you go to test this, you must ensure that before you do any research, you can answer this question. What decision will this research help me make? If you cannot answer this, you shouldn't be doing research. You need to figure out exactly the decision that this research is going to inform, because if not, it's just a waste of time. And we see this so often with strategists. They spend hours and hours what we call collecting. They're collecting swipe files and folders and screenshots. They've got these color coordinated tabs in their art browser. But why have they done that? They can't tell you why they've done that, why it's working, what to build based on the back of that. It's no good having tons of information if you don't know what to do with it. So each of the 9 sources that I'm about to run through help us make one of these 4 decisions. Which persona/avatar do we target next? Which angle do we lead with? How, in terms of which format, which hook style, what will make this person stop? And what objection do we need to overcome, and with what evidence? But to make it clear in more detail from this research and to answer these questions, we are not looking for what I call nice to knows. For example, she wants to lose weight is nice to know. It is not an insight. An insight, for example, is she's about to meet a friend for lunch who's just lost 40 pounds, but is embarrassed and rehearsing excuses in the mirror before she leaves. That is an angle. She wants to lose weight is just a demographic. So to make it clear, this is exactly the level of depth in which we are looking to get into with this research. Now, before we get into any of the sources themselves, we need to set up AI correctly, because if you don't, you will just get AI slop. And of course, no one wants AI slop. So before you run any of the prompts in this document that I'm going to walk you through, or really just any of the research process here, you must build a context library. You can use Claude, obviously via one of their projects, or you can use a gem inside of Gemini, whatever your preference is. But you must go ahead and upload all of this context into this project, which includes brand context and domain context. So who you sell to, what you're selling, why they buy, your USP, tone of voice, do's and don'ts, top performing ads, why you think they worked, a raw export of any reviews you have. It's great in terms of domain context as well to include general benchmarks across your niche, what's currently working in your market, and of course, we can pull from some of those sources, and any genuinely good strategy content converted into a reference doc. This works really well It's a bit of a cheat code. I'd recommend spending time there. Go to YouTube, go to Twitter, find a podcast, download it, transcribe it, whatever you need to do, and upload that so that you can use that. For example, if you've got a great strategy document, or you found a YouTube video where you have great strategists talking about their process for research or strategy, or just thinking about creative in general, download that and upload that into the project so that you can go ahead and leverage their thinking. To ensure all of this is that every single prompt in the document that follows will run with your brand context loaded rather than starting from zero every time. In terms of the AI stack, just to make it clear in terms of what we're going to use, there's a couple of things. Mainly, we're using AI for anything scrapable and pattern-based. We use humans for anything contextual, creative, or that requires taste. AI is really just a pattern recognition machine. It will, for example, read our reviews quicker than a human will, but in the example, it will read what was said, not the context behind the review, for example. And that's exactly why 80% of this process is largely manual, but AI is really the kind of machine behind it and does the heavy lifting. So this is the split. For the ad account, we're using AI to cluster ads by angle, building the kind of matrix, but manually you still need to check the output and decide what to retest. For competitor ads, we can use AI to do breakdowns of formats and frameworks, find out why it worked, but it's still down to you to ultimately determine which ads are worth analyzing in the first place. Your reviews, AI can extract verbatim phrases and failed solutions and what people are saying, but again, you still need to verify those reviews and then pick the hooks from what's extracted. For surveys, AI is great for clustering specific trigger moments and again, recognizing patterns within those. But again, you still need to write the survey questions in the first place and read any specific edge cases that are likely to come up. Competitor reviews, again, same sort of thing here. It can pattern recognize. It can see what is the typical pattern recognition from a failure perspective. So what people are saying in competitor reviews that they're unhappy with, but you still, again, need to determine yourself which angles are most relevant for your brand. For Reddit, they can go through the entire platform and essentially interrogate it. But again, you still need to go into more depth and read each full thread to get the context. For communities, it can summarize threads that you feed it, but almost all of this needs to be done manually as it's the hardest source to scrape. For comments, it can pull personas. It can extract personas from comments, for example, but you still need to, again, collect the comments in the first place, judge any form of context or sarcasm, whatever it may be. And then finally, for the organic feed, it can do hook mechanic breakdowns, it can analyze patterns and so forth, but you still need to manually scroll on the feed in the first place to be able to do this. And just to wrap this up before we dive into the research itself, to make it clear, there are two main tools that we're going to be using constantly. Foreplay, which is the, in my opinion, best tool, my go-to tool for collecting competitor ads and building swipe files to analyze. And then, of course, Reddit answers their native AI search. In my opinion, one of the biggest unlocks in the research process, but really everything else is just Claude combined with your context library or Gemini if you prefer to go down that route. So as you can see inside of Claude, we're going to go ahead and create a new project. Now, the brand that I'm going to be doing this research for is for Woofs, the dog, the pet supplement company. So as you can see, I've just gone ahead and created this folder. Now, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and upload the file, which is exactly what I mentioned here previously with regards to this brand context. I have this context library that I have created using AI, which contains details on the brand themselves, on domain context, on everything that's mentioned. So I'm just going to go ahead and upload this from my device here. This is a markdown file. Now, if you look at this file, it contains so much context here in terms of key findings, brand context, what they sell, the avatar, why this avatar buys, the USP, positioning, tone of voice, top performing ads. We have these 5 best performing ads here. We have specific reviews from other brands. We have Chewy as the main competitor here. Trustpilot, we have a synthesis of voice of customer. We have loads of domain context. So all of this has been poured into the Claude project. Now, going back to this system, as I mentioned, we have this AI stack. These are how the 9 sources fit together. So we look at, first of all, what's working from ad account winners, from competitor winning ads, which gives us angles and formats that we can either extend or try and beat. Then second of all, we look at why people buy, which comes from reviews on Trustpilot, Amazon, wherever it may be, and post-purchase surveys that are available. This provides us with buying triggers, desire language, and objections, and reasons as to why they would buy now. Thirdly, we have why people don't buy. So we look at competitor reviews, we look at Reddit, which gives us objections primarily to be able to overcome. and of course, unmet desires. And then finally, we want to uncover how people talk. So communities, comments on social, organic feed. This gives us those verbatim hooks, the actual language, the terminology that we can use for the copywriting. Everything we research will funnel into 2 living documents, which means a document that we constantly keep updated. So we have angles scored and mapped to a persona and an awareness level. And then we have the personas themselves. So 3 to 5 deep persona profiles, not just demographics, but the actual psychology as well. Then after that, we can begin the production itself. Now, for reference, if you are doing this, I would recommend taking around 2 days to set this up in the first place, then 60 to 90 minutes per week to keep it updated. And for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to be speed running through this so you can get an understanding as to how to do so. So first of all, source number 1, historical winners in your ad account. This is basically what's determining what to make more of and what you've never yet tested based on those first questions that I mentioned. Obviously, the only real research source, aside from maybe Competitor Rights 2, that's actually backed by Capital itself. And few people really interrogate this properly enough to understand not just what worked, but why an ad worked very well. So I've already done this for Woofs as mentioned, but what you want to go ahead and do is export 6 to 12 months of ads with spend sorted by whatever your true KPI is. Obviously, for different brands, it varies. For each ad above the average, the account average performance, you want to find out which angle it was, which persona it's aimed at, what the awareness level is, and the format itself. And then also do the same for your biggest losers. This is really underrated. It's great, of course, to analyze why ads worked so well, your best performers, but it's equally valuable, in my opinion, to try and get to the bottom and understand why your worst performing ads did perform so badly. So what you can do here inside of the ad account is export ad level data as a CSV file and then run this specific prompt, which is essentially trying to determine the angle of the ads themselves, clustering them together. Each angle cluster, figure out total spend, CPA, best CPA, and number of distinct ads tested, then building a matrix of angle times format, identifying false losers, so angles that only failed inside a 1 week format and are worth retesting, and then listing the 5 biggest concentration risks, i.e. where too much spend is depending on one angle or on ad. So then with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt into Claude and start the chat for you here, as I mentioned. And then just like that, as you can see, we have the output here. We have the angle clusters with reasoning. So the ads themselves, we have the clustering behind them. And obviously the reasoning is explaining why. And we have this for all of the ads here. So we have the fear of loss, we have the social proof, we have symptom recognition, owner testimonial transformation, natural alternative to harsh vet medicines, vet authority, gut health, allergy, itch, calming anxiety. We have all of these clusters. We have a summary of the angles themselves in terms of the weighted spend, distinct ad, the best single ad, proxy for best CPA, and average duration here. Again, we have the angle format matrix. This is where we have some that are less tested than others, but we can essentially see that the real finding is that 31 of 48 cells are untested pockets. This specific account is testing angles exclusively inside of this one home format angle. We have some false losers here, which is interesting too. We also have essentially these ads where basically angles that failed inside of one format but are worth retesting. Then we have the biggest concentration risks from the perspective of these ads and their spend themselves. So then going back to this, as you can see, this is essentially what it gives us. What I would, actually outline, and this is exactly what I specifically just mentioned here in Claude, from the finding, you will find 70 to 80% of the time that most of your spend sits on 1 to 2 angles, and that the creative fatigue that most people complain about is actually angle fatigue. New variations of a dead angle tested like new ones will die like old ones. It's as simple as that. So if you want to go deeper, you can essentially use Claude to connect your ad account directly rather than exporting a CSV file. Now, I'm not going to do this because I don't have the Woofs ad account, and therefore I can't connect to its API, but very, very simply, you can add a connector inside of Claude via this process, and you can set up the Facebook MCP inside of this system. So you can go to manage connectors, and then you can see the connectors available, and you can have Facebook ads MCP. This is a very simple process. You can just click connect, and you can go ahead and select the specific ad account that you would like to connect it to, follow this system, and then you can have your actual account connected here. What we do via this system is we pull every ad above a spend threshold via that API. We use Claude natively inside of this chat, so you don't need to do anything separate to transcribe all of the creatives, and then we will have AI place each one on a psychological messaging map. As I said, similarly, you'll find 70-80% of ads sit in a negative zone. So based around fear or problems, and then the actual like desired state, the positive after state zones are empty. Of course, you will find that people typically run from a burning building faster than towards their dream house. But at the same time, there are still so many net new pockets left untested that you can easily drill without changing anything. In terms of source 2, we have competitor winning ads. And the decision that this feeds is what's working in your market that you haven't yet potentially touched and where the white space is. Now, to be clear, the goal of researching competitors is not to copy them. You are trying to find out what your shared audience has already been primed and trained to respond to. And of course, equally, what they are fed up of seeing. Foreplay is by far the best tool for this personally. And again, as you saw, they have an MCP, which you can connect directly to Meta. I would recommend building a list yourself manually of 15 to 50 brands. You must include a selection, so some competitors, but also indirect competitors. It doesn't matter if they're not in the exact same industry as you, but ultimately, if they are selling to the same person in a different niche, you can still get a benefit from that because the audience overlaps and you can just find new formats. So inside of the Meta Ad Library or one of these swipe file tools, let's just use Foreplay as the example, as this is what I would be using. You can go ahead and filter each brand for longevity. So inside of Foreplay, I'm just going to open this up right now, and I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing as that example has shown. I'm going to go ahead and search for Pet Lab Co. because they are a great example and they are also a direct competitor of Woofs, which I'm using for this example. So as you can see, you have all of the ads that they have live right now that people have saved. You can go ahead and filter for longevity. So what we can do is we can add a filter. We can make sure that they are still running. So these are all of the live ads, and we can sort by longest running. Of course, this is all time. So these ads have been running for 600 days. We can filter this, for example, in the last 90 days, which gives us a better representation. What I will say though, as a caveat, is you must verify with your gut because some brands will deliberately leave bad ads running as a decoy just to throw off competitors who are doing this exact same thing. So if you see an ad that's been running for this long, just verify it with your gut. It might not actually be that effective. They might just deliberately be running and leaving this to throw off their competitors. So with that being said, you want to go ahead and do the exact same thing. You want to take note of the 4 attributes, the same as source 1, angle, persona, awareness level, format. Repeat this process every week for those best performing ads. Do this weekly because the formats do saturate very, very quickly. So you want to find out what's on the rise as early as possible. Yeah, of course, you can't see competitor spend, but inside of the Meta Ad Library directly, the impression sort is actually pretty accurate. Now, once you have downloaded the best ads, you want to go ahead and extract the skeleton. So what you can do is paste this prompt into Claude with the ads you have downloaded. This is going to transcribe them if you haven't already and break down the skeleton, as I said. The goal is to basically build a database of frameworks. We're not looking to copy. Again, we're looking to take the skeletons themselves of the ad with a hypothesis for why it worked so that you can then go ahead and recreate. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share what this looks like by copying this prompt. Now, of course, this is based on you having downloaded and transcribed the ad, but it goes without saying with Foreplay's MCP, you can do this directly inside of Claude. So we're going to open up this same chat. We're going to paste this prompt in to basically say, please use the Foreplay MCP to analyze winning ads for Woofs competitors. We're looking for the angles, the persona, the awareness level. We're trying to look at that matrix again. What's everyone crowded into? The personas, the areas, the angles, the awareness levels that no one yet is serving. Proven angles that they haven't yet tested that we could based on the research that we've done for our brand and so forth. So again, I'm going to go ahead and press enter here, and it's going to run this using the Foreplay MCP connection. Again, if you haven't set this up, it's a very simple process. Inside of Claude, you want to go ahead into connectors, and you can add in the Foreplay one very simply by just connecting this to your Foreplay API. You must have the pay plan with Foreplay to have your API set up, but it's a very simple process. And as you can see right now, Claude is going inside of Foreplay directly looking for brands that are Woofs competitors by searching for their domain. So then the output is these ads pulled from Pet Lab Co., Zesty Paws, Zoomove, Job, these competitors of Woofs. We can see decoded the ads running, the angle, the persona, the awareness, the format for these individual brands. Obviously for this specific company, there's not that much variation in terms of the individual ads, but we can see these. And then we can see again the angle times format map, which is Really, really effective to see where there are a lot of gaps in terms of what's not really being tested. We can see who's running a specific angle, where there's actual heavy crowding within those angles themselves, where everyone is crowding into, and some of these gaps. Really, really effective to do this actual resource and this exercise rather, so that we can look at this and see the gaps. So there is a massive gap in terms of this specific unserved persona, angle, and awareness level based on the audience sizes. And we can see some of their proven angles too that WOOFs have never even tested either, which is gold to be able to look at, okay, like these brands are competitors, these are proven angles, they're running, they're seeing success from, they've got ads running that have been spending for a long time, but we haven't yet tested these specific angles. And also we have some formats that would carry WOOF's angles even better, really effective. So we can see, for example, that the WOOF testimonial and founder story, there's a massive opportunity to be able to use that as a long form copy and static image and so forth. Very, very effective based on this research. But again, just to make it clear, do not do exactly what these competitors are doing. You want to take either a proven angle into a new format that they don't use, or take a proven angle into their proven format. So either your format, their angle, or your angle and their format. Both of these are new, fresh options to the algorithm, but also still familiar to the customer. Now, source number 3 is your own research via Trustpilot, Amazon, wherever it may be. And this feeds the decision of what desired language converts and which proof actually matters. Now, of course, your reviews are quite literally ads that your customers have already written for you. The copy is already there in their head. You just have to find it. So what I'd recommend you doing is pulling every review from Trustpilot, Amazon, on-site, App Store, wherever is relevant for you. Now, this is the one area where volume does matter. And the one source where the more data, the better. You want to look at all of the reviews. So for 5-star, you want to look at the desire-based language, the transformation stories. For 3-star, any honest friction. So I loved it, but whatever it may be, so that you can overcome these objections. And 1-star, you can just look for expectation gaps and maybe something that you're promising that the product doesn't deliver. You want to really look for emotional language and before and after. This is gold. These are direct hooks. And you want to find the exact verbatim phrases and terminology, because that's the copy that you want to use in your language. So for example, with this example brand here, you can see with this 5-star review, I don't think I've ever actually had completely smooth legs like this. Now, this is a women's razor product, but as you can see, that is a direct static headline. But then also from the 1-star review, not worth it at all, way overpriced and not a smooth shave stick with a razor. This also has great potential as an angle. We're expensive, yes, but for example. So then from that, what you can do is once again, go ahead and export all of your reviews to a CSV file, to a Markdown file, whatever it may be. And you can then run this prompt. Now, of course, as well, again, Claude can scrape Trustpilot pages directly. So we're going to use that for the purposes of this demo. I'm going to copy this prompt into the same chat here just for consistency. And I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. Just basically prompting Claude to go and find the research itself, to go and find those reviews via Trustpilot. And just like that, as you can see, we have the 30 most emotionally loaded verbatim phrases from their reviews. We have desires, what people are really buying. We have frustrations with previous solutions. We have transformation moments, back running outside with the younger dogs. She is breezing through life again, no limp at all. And then we have objections they have to admit to having had. It's expensive, but makes a huge difference. I'll give it a good 3-month trial run. I thought I'd done my research and so forth. And as you can see, we have some failed solutions mentioned, ranked by frequency. So the most common solution that they've previously tried and failed is vet pain and medicines, as you can see, and then other joint issues, competitors, surgery, specific brands, fish oil. We have trigger moments, why they bought that day, a specific mobility event they witnessed is the main thing, an ad, the actual ad itself, and then a moment of worry and so forth. And then we have the gap between 5-star desire and 1 to 3-star friction. The main desire is time, the reversal of aging, the fountain of youth, live forever, as it were. Then we have 5 objections that advertising must preempt, ranked. And then we have 15 hooks from verbatim phrases that are very, very minimally edited. I stopped using it and heavily noticed her downfall. Great one there for problem-aware audience. And obviously, as you can see, we have all of this verbatim language that we can leverage. Really, really effective. But I will say, just looking at this prompt specifically, you must ask it to flag which it's confident in, because as I'm sure you know, AI will default when failing to coming up with random insights, which is why, as you can see, we've asked it to specifically give the source for all of the research. So if we go back to these here, you can see for each one, we actually have the link to where it found that from in the first place, because without doing so, it will just give us something that it's made up. You must force it to always show receipts. So then source number 4, as you can see, is post-purchase surveys. This decision feeds the why now in terms of the trigger that turns someone that's scrolling into a buyer, what makes them stop scrolling and actually purchase the product there and then. So yes, reviews, people will tell you why they like the product. Surveys tell you why they bought at that specific time. And I believe personally that the why now question is one of the most underutilized insights in paid creative. So first of all, if you don't have a post-purchase survey, set one up ASAP. You are seriously handicapped without one. You want to find out the answers to these questions. What was happening in your life that made you look for this? This is the trigger moment. What almost stopped you from buying, i.e. what objections took place? What else did you try or consider? Competing solutions and failed solutions. How would you describe this product to a friend? Because you are looking for situations. You are looking for what actually happened in their life that then caused them to purchase at that specific time. And this is a great example here from HiSmile, a great example of a post-purchase driven angle. As you can see, this mouthwash saved our marriage, something that happened after the purchase itself, after usage of the product that could then be reused for an angle. Again, we have the AI prompt here. One specific trigger moment is worth 10 benefits. These trigger moments are incredibly important because post Andromeda, the more hyper-specific you are with the situation the person is in, that's exactly what the algorithm wants. They self-select the subsegment that's experiencing that situation for you. That is the targeting itself. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt back into the same chat here with Claude. Now, again, I don't have the specific survey responses for Woofs, because this is just an example demo, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it to do the research itself. So then, as you can see with the output, we have the trigger moments here, clustered, classified. The dog stops at the door, refusing to walk, failed to jump into the car, on the couch, whatever it may be, the stairs, the quiet yard, and so forth. And then going forward, we have the objection stack. So things that almost stop them from purchasing, skepticism, price, things that they've tried that already failed. And then we have this table, which outlines the trigger moment, the frequency, the emotion behind it, how private that is, acute/chronic, the opening scene, and first line based on this post-purchase data. Really, really effective and a great way to obviously give you insights into exactly why people bought that you can then reuse for ads, as this example has done very effectively. Now, source number 5 is something similar to previous competitor reviews, which feeds the decision of what the market actually wants, but isn't yet getting. Again, I'm saying something similar for most of these sources, but this really might be the highest leverage source on the list. And again, severely, severely underutilized. Competitors have spent millions of dollars already acquiring customers who then basically wrote you a full report on why they didn't like their products. That's exactly what competitor reviews are. So incredibly effective to leverage. Pull reviews for your best competitors, Trustpilot, Amazon, Reddit, wherever it may be. Go straight to the 1 to 3 star reviews looking for repeated failure patterns, broken promises, and the switcher story, i.e. I used this competitor for years until this happened. Cross-reference them against your own 5-star reviews and find those gaps that you can exploit where their weakness meets your strength is, for example, a great opportunity for an us versus them angle. For example, if you were a competitor of SolarWave, there are some great angles in their reviews. Worked well for 18 months, then just died. I did not use the product because the instruction manual lists safety contradictions that were not clearly disclosed in the marketing. Very, very high leverage angles if you were a brand competing with SolarWave, essentially. So again, we're going to go ahead and take this AI prompt. We're going to paste this back into the chat and we're going to repeat the same process. We are going to ask it to manually research itself reviews from Woofs competitors. So what this has given us is reviews from these brands, Cosequin, Pet Lab Co, YouMove, and a few others. So first of all, we have competitor failure patterns ranked by frequency. Basically, it's not doing anything, the invisible results, subscription trap, being trapped into the subscription, palatability workarounds, and so forth. We have broken promises in the market, and then we have this table cross-referencing failures from competitors, 5-star reviews documented from Woofs, and then the potential angle that we can go ahead and test. De facto ad concepts, so verbatim from both review sets here. As you can see, we have tons and tons of detail, patterns that apply to Woofs as well, to basically pass upstream from the perspective of the actual product itself. Really, really effective. Typically, the persona that this source will produce is someone that already buys and has bought in your category, but is basically dissatisfied. So they are problem aware and they are solution aware, which means you skip the entire education phase. They are potentially the cheapest and easiest customer to acquire. You just have to produce an ad that has named their exact specific frustration very, very clearly. So then source number 6 is Reddit. And what this does is it feeds the decision of the raw, unfiltered truth and how people talk about the problem when no brand is listening. And this is exactly where people say things that they're too afraid or embarrassed or just don't really want to admit and write in a public review. And it's also, in my opinion, the research where AI has arguably provided the most benefit, as you can interrogate the entire discussion history across this platform with the platform Reddit Answers. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and find 3 to 10 subreddits where your customer's problem lives. You want to search for the problem, not the product. And you want to also find adjacent lifestyle and subreddits where your buyer is likely to hang out that might not necessarily be directly related. Sort by top and all time over the past year. The highest upvoted problem threads will be validated pain, ranked by the audience. You must also read the comment sections, not just the posts. The most upvoted comment in a problem thread is the market telling you exactly what resonates. Then what you can do is run the questions below in this specific section through Reddit Answers, or you can even just get Claude to do this to cover what you might have missed manually reading. Now, don't be lazy, go through Reddit and actually do this manually. It's much more effective. But for the purposes of speeding this up, we're going to go ahead and head over to Reddit Answers, like I mentioned, and we're going to pull up this specific question and ask these as you can see. So what I've done here is I've taken those questions from the document and I filled these out in Claude to get Claude to rewrite these questions based on the voice of customer research that we have already done. So first of all, I'm going to go into Reddit and I'm going to ask, what are the most common frustrations people express about watching their dog slow down from joint pain? And as you can see, what Reddit is going to do is actually search for all of these subreddits, and it's going to find all of the things that people themselves are saying. And of course, it's actually linking the specific discussion within these communities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very, very simply go ahead and copy and paste the output. And I'm going to put this into a new Google document. I'm just going to go ahead and title this research from Reddit. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste in all of this information. We're going to repeat this for the other questions. So how do people describe a bad day with a dog whose joints are failing? And we're going to go back into Reddit Answers and we're going to ask this question. Once again, going into these specific subreddits, and it's giving us the details of what people are saying to answer this question. And then very, very simply, we're going to go ahead and repeat this process for all of the other questions inside of that Notion document and paste this into the research inside a Google Doc. So then with that, as you can see, we have this 10-page Google document with the output from Reddit, with the Reddit Answers system answering every single one of these 10 questions that we are looking to use to excavate this verbatim customer language combined with the voice of customer research that we have already done. So I'm going to go ahead and download this as a TXT file, and I'm going to upload this into the Claude chat. And then going back into Notion, we have this specific prompt based on the answers we have collected. So again, pasting that back into Claude here. We have attached the Reddit threads and comments, and we are asking it to go ahead and extract the most upvoted verbatim descriptions of the problem, every solution that's been tried but failed, recurring metaphors and analogies, beliefs this community holds that mainstream advertising doesn't actually have in place that contradicts, and then writing 10 hooks that sound like the first line of a Reddit post, not an ad. And then right here, we have the 25 most charged verbatim descriptions, the invisible pain problem, the physical decline, the emotional decline, the exhaustion of trying. We have failed solutions with stated reasoning as to why it failed. We have recurring metaphors, which can be great for visual ad concepts. So as you can see here, something that comes up commonly is being referred to as spaghetti legs. So she went from having spaghetti legs to be able to get up by herself and walk without assistance. A great way to obviously visualize this for this target audience. Community beliefs that mainstream category advertising contradicts. And then we have 10 potential hooks that read as Reddit first lines. He genuinely seems fine. I'd feel horrible if he was in pain and I didn't realize. It's so sad to see him slide all over the tile floor and fall down. Great concepts here for statics, for native ads as well. that you can go ahead and leverage. Now, one thing to note in terms of Reddit, these typically will make the best Yapper ads. So these style of AI ads that you can make very easily, where you literally just have someone talking in the car, in the garden, wherever it may be. It's built from how people actually talk, and this is exactly what captures the scripting for these winning ads. But it is worth noting as a caveat for Reddit that you will be able to gather a lot of data from the AI process, but not always context. So what you want to do is use Reddit answers like I've just shown you for breadth, but you want to go ahead and manually review and read the threads to get more depth on these, because the scraper will tell you something that was mentioned, but if you go ahead and read that, you will actually understand the context behind and the story that led to that being mentioned in the first place. Now, source number 7 is communities. So we're looking here at Facebook groups, forums, Discords. These basically feed the decision of the pre-purchase conversation. What questions do people ask before they're a customer? So yes, reviews, surveys, these are post-purchase, but communities show the kind of middle where people are comparing options, they're asking other people what they've tried, they're voicing their objections, they are still undecided. And this is where you can go to understand what they still need to hear to make that actual conversion. So the process for this, and I'm not going to do this live because it's actually quite time consuming and one of the most manual processes here. And AI doesn't have as much leverage in this. But what you want to go ahead and do is join 3 to 5 Facebook groups, forums, Discords, wherever your buyer lives. You want to look for problem groups and you want to look for solution groups, as you can see. So for example, neuropathy support group, and then home remedies that work. Great in the first place to find pain-based language, but then also to find comparison shopping behavior and language where people are comparing different options. Use these terms in a group to search for specific things to surface different insights. And then you want to go ahead and take a screenshot of instances where someone has asked for a recommendation of something and a lot of people are answering, because you can obviously go and take that answer to find maybe the brand, the option, the alternative that's the market leader. And then you want to find the complaints in the replies for your angles. Again, take note of the scenarios people describe, the trigger moments, like I mentioned earlier. The why now is the most important insight. First person stories from community posts are gold for the actual scripts themselves. They're very, very effective because you can find the raw, unfiltered language that people are using. They often hold nothing back in these communities. And so what you can do is you can take the screenshots, attach them inside of your Claude chat, and use this prompt to uncover the questions that people are asking that have not yet bought a solution. First person stories with a specific scene. When people are asking for recommendation, what is being recommended? Why is that being recommended? What is the reasoning? And then what questions does nobody have a good answer to? This is a great prompt that you can give AI to then go ahead and find angles that you can use in your ads to answer an unanswered question. Most brands will overweight the mining of reviews, but underweight the mining of communities because it's a manual process, they're harder to scrape, and therefore it's such an edge. If you do this manually, if you do this once a week, you will be able to spot other brands rising before they start stealing spend from you. So very, very underrated. Would absolutely recommend doing this process. Now, source number 8, comments on social media and ads. And this basically feeds live audience reaction. So objections, desires, timestamped in public, what people are saying in real time. The only real place where you can actually watch someone react to an actual ad or post in real time. Again, every single comment on a competitor's ad is your ideal focus group. Every comment on an organic video is a signal of basically what makes people engage with that content. So what you can do is you want to go ahead and take the list of competitors from source 2, where we looked at competitor ads, and then find their winning ads and open the comment section. You want to take a look in the comments of objections. For example, people are saying, yeah, but does it work if, or yeah, the price though. Basically, you want to find the things that your ad must preempt. Any specific patterns where people are tagging a friend. Obviously, this is the more social aspect, and this is the social moment that the ad taps. And then any questions that haven't been answered, which probably are gaps that their funnel isn't handling. You can also do this for your own ads, especially the winners, because you can find out why the ad is winning, and any skeptical comments will give you great angles for potential reasoning as to why this ad is going to fatigue. And then from that, what you can do is search your product category plus the word review on somewhere like YouTube, Instagram Reels, TikTok, and then you can find any related videos and find the top highest liked comments with detail. For example, as you can see here, with this organic video, we have someone's respond in the comments saying, but omega-3 also makes blood thinner. So if for any reason someone bleeds, it's dangerous. So what other supplements do you refer? And the creator, the person that posted this video, has responded. As you can see, if you were selling an omega-3 based product, this is the perfect example of mining comments. that will perfectly surface an objection / a concern that would potentially prevent someone from buying your product. And then again, you want to go ahead and take that. You can scrape the comments from competitor ads, your ads, and so forth, attach those inside of your AI chat, and use this prompt right here to build a leaderboard of the objections, extract comments where someone tagged a friend, the situation, the social trigger. From the highlight detailed comments, extract persona details, comments that are already perfect ad copy. So for example, this one would work really well. Overcoming omega-3s don't actually thin your blood. They just reduce platelet thick stickiness, which is why they're great for heart and brain health. That itself is great copy for an ad. And then for your winning ads, what are the positive comments saying? What did the ad get right? What are skeptics attacking? And so forth. Great, absolute gold for what cold audience think about a product before they even see your ad or your product. So then source 9 finally is the organic feed, which is what I call strategic doom scrolling, and feeds the decision of how to package everything together. All of the previous 8 sources will help you identify what you should be saying, but this source will tell you the way and how you must say it. Of course, organic creators themselves, they live and die by the algorithm. They have no budget. So if something is working for them, if a format is working for them, it's a great leading indicator of what will work in paid 4 to 8 weeks later. Every single major AI ad format of the last year was an organic trend first. Yappers, claymation, animation, Pixar style, everything went viral organically first. So your job is to find it. Now for this, what you can do is actually build a burner account on TikTok, IG, YouTube, wherever is the most relevant. Spend a couple of days searching for their problems, following creators that your audience would follow, engage like they would, and then eventually after a week, the algorithm is doing persona research for you and you are just literally seeing the exact feed that your ideal customer would see. What you can also do is you can reverse engineer your persona's search terms, but I just recommend scrolling 30 to 60 minutes each work on schedule. Save everything that stops you from scrolling in the eyes of your ICP. Look at the production style, the formats, what's winning organically. Is it raw talking to camera, yapper style? Is it specific editing? Is it motion? What is actually working? Because your ads need to blend into the feed to earn the stop. If your ad matches the surroundings of the other content people are scrolling past, it will outperform massively, of course, the one that stands out and looks like an ad. And then what you can do is you can take the organic videos that you have saved, you can transcribe them via AI and ask it to extract the hook, the common patterns from a stylistic perspective, the angles that could be carried by each format. Obviously, you'd be pasting in your angle bank there, and then ranking the formats by production difficulty with AI tools. What this does is it gives you the benefits from the other 8. So for example, angles from Reddit can then be perfect from a strategic perspective, but if they're in the wrong format, they will just not work, which is why you want to uncover the actual format you can leverage this research from. But that said, if you have a message that's working really well in any format, you want to go ahead and interrogate the white space around it. So with this prompt, you can go ahead and essentially say, okay, this message, this angle is winning for us in this format. Please go ahead and list every audience, messaging angle, the hook that we have not yet paired with this message. Then list every format that we haven't yet cast it into. And, I've interestingly found with these prompts, if you just say things at the end, like if you do, I will not use you. Please do not give me surface level recommendation. This will actually help with the output quality. Strangely enough, AI will be forced into giving you a better output. But with that said, those are the 9 research process points that we use. And again, I want to make it really clear. This is an AI powered research process. It's not fully AI automated. You must not automate the ideation. LLMs are trained on the average, so the output will be the average. If you feed AI just 3 personas on your website and ask for ad ideas, you will get the same as everyone else. AI importantly expands, but it does not originate. You want to make sure that you are not using analysis for core decisions. AI will not naturally understand the hierarchy of metrics or your account structure or this additional performance data. It might tell you to potentially kill an ad that's actually your best gross profit producer just because on paper the ROAS looked bad. You want to make sure that AI is preparing the analysis, but you are making the decisions. Again, as well as I mentioned, anything it can state confidently without evidence, be careful. It will give you wrong answers unless you force it to show receipts like I previously mentioned. And again, we all know AI copy. We know what that looks like. Just make sure you are finally actually going over everything and manually editing and writing the important parts. But then finally, once you have this research, how do you turn this into an ad itself? Because of course, if you haven't, you're just procrastinating. You want to make sure you're making the best use of that time and do something with everything that you have just produced. So first of all, build a persona doc. Again, personas, not demographics. Women 35 to 54 in the US is not a persona. That is something that you would have leveraged pre-Andromeda as a media buying targeting setting. You want to look at these 4 questions. What do they believe about the problem? What have they tried and why did it fail? What are they afraid of and what do they secretly want? And what exact words do they use to talk about this when they talk to themselves? If 2 different personas share all 4 answers, that's just one persona. You want to make sure that you are using these specific questions. Go back to the sources, do it again, come up with better answers if you don't have it. Now, with that being said, this prompt is available to go ahead and basically build the actual persona document itself, identifying from all of the data, the 3 to 5 distinct personas, writing a paragraph who they are in their own quoted words, the 5 Fs, fears, frustrations, failures, fantasies, failed solutions, backed by verbatim quotes, again, forcing it to show receipts, awareness level, trigger moments, objection stack, verbatim phrases, rank the personas by how often they appear, and then make sure that every claim is either evidenced or inferred, because we want to make sure that we are only using things that have been actually evidenced. Then from that, you can build your angle bank, the angle, the persona, the awareness level, the source, where it came from, the suggested format, and the status. And then, of course, you can go ahead and start allocate your intention towards this. Make sure that you're providing a hypothesis to each specific angle. Don't just test randomly. And then what I would recommend is this cadence of every single week. Go through that process of organically scrolling on social platforms, mine for comments, find new reviews, new surveys, add them into that living doc so you've got fresh hooks always. Every month, refresh this persona doc, your angle bank, your spend versus voice audit so that you have the allocation for the next batch. And then every quarter, redo this entire 9 source process. The monthly spend versus voice audit is incredibly useful. I don't see people do this very often. You're basically comparing the percentage of your ad spend and how much of that goes to each persona against the percentage of your customer voice and how much that persona represents. So for example, you might have a persona that is 40% of your reviews, but only 10% of your spend. You found a great opportunity to scale, a great opportunity really hiding in plain sight. Now, there is a level 2 to this, which essentially is the self-improving version. Of course, everything is backed and assisted with AI, but basically manual. And there is a next level in terms of automating this. And this is basically what we do internally to a large extent. Looking at every single ad that crosses a certain spend threshold. And when it does, it's being automatically pulled into a best performing database with a hypothesis of why it worked. Every hook that beats a target hook rate gets logged automatically. A competitor watcher is doing this scraping process on a weekly basis. Every single time we see a competitor ad that crosses an impression mark, and then we break that down into a framework. We have this Reddit scraper running to find seeded keywords every single week to service new angles, new personas. And then ultimately, every time you make a change, you log why you killed an angle, why you edited a hypothesis, why you reallocated a persona. And then ultimately, you're feeding that data, those explanations back into the context so that the next run that the research produces is better. The AI is being trained on your research and your expertise, not just AI slop and the market research. So with that being said, that wraps up the process and the demo on how we do this research, how we use AI and these 9 sources to come up with net new concepts and angles. I hope you found this extremely valuable. The actual document that I've gone through here in Notion will be linked in the description below. So feel free to click on that and get access to this so that you can try it. And I will see you in the next video.